What's up, metal and heavy music fans? Today we are ranking the album art of Korn. Alright, and don't you worry, we will be following this up with an actual album ranking for the music, but let's just jump in talking about album art. It's kind of Korn week, we can call it that. And yeah, we've got the self-titled album. This is an iconic cover. Absolutely love it. Like, when I think 90s and like alternative and metal, this is definitely an album that comes to mind very quickly. The way that they put it together and how everything is just like the lighting is kind of like harsh already and it kind of like puts you off. And then of course the just subject matter is just so eerie and creepy. And it's just like the perfect introduction to what this band is all about and the way that they lined up the shadow and everything. I heard like a background story, like the girl who is in this photo, she said that the guy was actually like super nice and was like even kind of like blocking the sun from her eyes. But then the result is this very disturbing photo. It's got to be S tier. Then we got Life is Peachy, which is kind of like a similar take on that concept, just a little bit different. I don't love this one as much. I don't think that the composition of it is quite as strong or as striking. So yeah, not quite as iconic. I kind of am wavering between an A and a B. I'm leaning more towards B, but I may kind of move these around as we go. But yeah, let's go to Follow the Leader, which is another super iconic cover. Like, such a cool idea, too. In some ways, I kind of like it a little bit better than the debut. But I just love this imagery of this hopscotch going off into oblivion and how they incorporated it into the music video too. I love the color scheme. It's just very aesthetically pleasing while still kind of playing with those same themes that are so prominent in these early albums. I gotta put this one at S tier for sure. Issues, another one that stands out for me. This one is cool too because I remember in the lead up to this album coming out, they had that contest where a bunch of people got to contribute their own ideas to the artwork, and there were like 4 finalists. And I got to see like all 4 of those artwork. I'll try to put them all up on the screen. And I thought that they were all pretty cool in their own way. But ultimately, like this little doll with the fire behind it, it's iconic. Like so many, it's rare for a band to have so many iconic album covers, but these 3 in particular just always stand out for me. And I just love, like, I kind of just stare at this cover. I remember the first time I saw it as a kid and just being kind of like mesmerized by it. Like, whoa, what is that? That is like super creepy. So yeah, another S tier one, gotta be up there. These 3 are just fantastic. Untouchables, I feel like, continues in kind of a similar vein. I do like aspects of this cover. It's a little dull kind of by design. It's kind of got that like sepia tone, sort of old photography kind of look to it. But I don't know, conceptually, I don't find it as interesting. And it's good. It's well done. It's better than some of the other ones, but it's not an album, again, that like particularly really leaps out at me, or a cover that kind of like jumps off the wall and really sticks with me. I'm going to put this one at, let's say, B tier. Take a Look in the Mirror. Kind of a more simplistic cover, and this is definitely a shift back to that more photography style. I definitely tend to prefer their more like artwork, like drawn style covers. The more I'm thinking about like even moving forward into some of these other ones. But it's another one, I don't know, it's okay. It's more or less like a glorified band photo. It's definitely creepy. I mean, ultimately, honestly, this feels like it should be the band photo, like where you open the album and that's the inside and you see that, and that's like how you see what the band looks like is through this mirror. And obviously it ties into, you know, the title of the album, but I don't know, just not all that interesting, not all that great. I'm going to also, I think, put this one at B tier. There's definitely worse ones, but I don't know, it's just okay. See You on the Other Side. Now this one is, there's a lot going on and it's very like blown out, but I'd call this almost like a thumbnail worthy album cover. Like you put this on a YouTube video thumbnail. Dang, I didn't do that either. I should probably do that if I change the thumbnail up before I put this up. But yeah, like this one just really stands out. I kind of like this sort of like Alice in Wonderland kind of twisted vibe. Much more cool to look at, I think, too, than what Tim Burton did with it. God, I hate those movies. And then I guess also a little bit of like American McGee's Alice, which if you're not familiar with that game, it's kind of cool, even if it's a little bit edgy boy, but it fits with the concept of these albums, I would say. I'd actually put this one at A tier. I kind of enjoy it. I like the color palette again. I like the composition of it, and it is one that, even though it's not one of my favorite albums, I enjoy looking at that artwork. Right, the Untitled album, not a big fan of this one. I kind of like the like creature, this like weird misshapen bird thing. Kind of reminds me of like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark kind of artwork and stuff like that. I should probably look up the artist of who did this. And I don't know, there's elements of it I like, but I think what kills it for me is the color palette. I hate this like blank white background with this like gold kind of ugly color, like bronze. I don't know how I would even describe that particular tone. It looks kind of like poopy. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like this one very much. I could see maybe putting it at C, but honestly, I kind of want to put it at D because I would say it's probably one of my least favorites. Korn 3, Remember Who You Are. So this one, obviously calling back to that very first cover, except with a more like teenage girl walking through this oil fields, tying into the like Oildale stuff in the music video for that one. I like how they photograph this one from the inside of this like Predator's car and like the shadows. It's a little bit try hard, I kind of want to say. So I don't know, that pulls it back a little bit for me, but I think it's in keeping with them, but also knowing what they were going through with this album and how they were trying to kind of like recapture stuff that maybe wasn't exactly where their mindset was at. Again, it just doesn't feel as genuine as that first cover. I don't know, I'm kind of feeling like a B on this one, which makes me want to move maybe one of these, because I don't want too many. I don't really want more than 3 on any tier. So I guess if I were to bump one of these up or down, I could probably push up Life is Peachy just a little bit more to an A, because I do kind of like the eerie feeling that it gives me, and it's a little bit more of a classic. All right, Path of Totality, like this just has to go to D, just because that is just a lame cover. I mean, I get that it's like, if we're going for like the EDM kind of dubstep cover, that's sort of the style, but I can think of a million albums in that style that look way better. Like, honestly, if I think of some of the Skrillex albums with like the cool logo and like the shapes that he utilized and stuff, like those are still like aesthetically pleasing covers. This is just ugly. Like, there's nothing good about it. It looks like something a kid could have like thrown together in Photoshop in a couple of minutes with a little bit of extra guidance on YouTube on maybe some of like the coloring effects in the background. But yeah, overall, just a really underwhelming cover, probably their worst. All right, similarly with the Paradigm Shift, like this also feels like a very just Photoshoppy kind of low effort cover. I don't know what I'm supposed to get from this either. Like, a lot of these other albums like kind of have a feel to them, kind of tie into the album in some way in terms of like thematically and conceptually. But this one, I don't know, it looks more like a lower effort like Meshuggah cover or like Born of Osiris or something, but not done as well. So I don't know. I all see this cover and I'm just like, it just doesn't feel like Korn to me, and it's not particularly well done. It's a little bit ugly, to be honest. I don't think it's like bottom of the barrel. I'll put it at C tier. And then the Serenity of Suffering, definitely talk about callbacks. Like this has literal Easter eggs on it, calling back to previous albums, and it's a bit much. It's a bit much. Just the overall like look of it, and kind of the again sort of try hard edginess of it, even to like the next degree. The color scheme doesn't particularly appeal to me. It reminds me more of something you'd see on like Insane Clown Posse album cover or something like that. And it's just too much member berries too. Like, the Easter eggs are fun, but again, like maybe this would have been better as like a poster or an insert or something. As the cover, I think there's too much going on. Like, simplify it down a little bit. Not terrible. I'm going to put this one at C tier as well. The Nothing. They're kind of even bigger comeback album, I would say. And I like this cover quite a bit. Just talk about simplify, strip it back. Like, this is the polar opposite of that last album. Just a very simple idea of this like black figure all tangled up and kind of mangled in these like spiderweb type things hanging down on this simple gray background. I really love it. Like, to me, this just screams Korn. It's just a well executed simple album cover that harkens more back to the early covers than the ones that seem like they were trying to do that. Like, this doesn't even feel like they were necessarily going for that, but they just nailed it anyways. Like, it reminds me a bit of like the Issues cover in some ways. I'm going to put this one at A tier. And then finally we have Requiem, and I got to say, unfortunately, after a really great cover, not great, but like really upper tier kind of cover, a return to form, we'll call it, this one feels like we're dipping back into Photoshop territory. In fact, this one even more so than the Paradigm Shift, I think. This just feels so low effort. It's like literally just like a stress ball face being squished by fingers, and it's like a baby face. And so yeah, again, it kind of like calls back to, again, these creepy themes that I won't say in certain terms because it might get my video in trouble if I say it out loud. But and especially with the like logo overlaid over the entire thing like that, almost like it's like tattooed on to the image itself with the bland gray. Like, I don't know. I don't like this cover. I really don't. I saw it announced and I was like, ugh, no. No, not loving it. Really just low effort again, kind of Photoshop looking stuff. Like, I could probably make this cover. Like, if I could make this cover, I am not a particularly good like designer. Like, I feel like I'm getting better and having fun with making thumbnails, but that's about the extent of my capabilities, and I could still make this cover. And I just think they could have done better. And it doesn't jump out. It's really bland. It's not doing them any favors either, because even if you're like scanning the shelf at the CD store, or if you're, you know, on Spotify or whatever and you're scrolling through new releases, you're gonna roll right over this one because it's just like a bland nothingness. It's just a gray square, basically, as you're speeding past it. So I'm going to put that one at D tier as well. But yeah, let me know down in the comments, what do you think? How would you rank these album arts differently? And then stick around. I've got a tier list coming up real soon on my thoughts on the music of all these albums, and then a full review of Requiem. So don't go anywhere. Check out some other videos, but that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.